Being the authority. Being the authority means that you demonstrate you are the expert for your specific client. Now, a lot of people will think, oh, but where does the messaging part come in? And the reality is that when it comes to corporates, it's not about messaging in some social media post, even on LinkedIn, but it's about positioning yourself as an authority so that all your interactions, whether that's your emails, whether that's your website, whether that's your LinkedIn profile, whether that's the way you introduce yourself at networking events, whether that's how you connect with corporates in other locations, whether that's the way how you maybe run your own corporate events for corporate clients, whichever way, all of the interactions, you need to demonstrate that you are an expert for them who is the authority that they need to hire. And you do this in 3 steps. First up, you appeal to their logic. Now, this is an area where most people generally are okay up to a certain level, because you appeal to corporate logic by giving them an outline of what your work does, the kind of results they can get, and some people go far enough and actually quantify that. When you support this appeal to logic with research, challenges, and connecting the dots so that you're speaking specifically to your corporate clients, so you know exactly what's going on in their industry and why your work becomes an essential for them. And you connect all of those dots. That is where you start appealing to their logic. And if you then link that to their emotions, that when it starts becoming a powerful message. Because just like every other human in the world, corporate decision makers are not just logic driven. I know, they all like to pretend that they're completely data driven, that all their decisions are based on thorough analysis. But having sat in many, many, many boardrooms of Fortune 500 and even Fortune 100 companies, having been an advisor as a consultant to global leaders, I know that the emotional aspect of decision maker is for them is just as big as it is for most other people. So this is where it becomes important that you do not simply rely on logic. You also have to tap into their emotions. Now, what does that look like? Well, with corporates, one of the best ways to tap into their emotions, or link it to their emotions, I should say, is to talk about the symptoms of their challenge, the kind of things that they see in their daily work life. What do they notice that gives them the clue that this challenge, whatever it is you can help them with, is happening for them? What do they see? What do they notice? What do they hear their people say? Let's make it tangible. Coming back, if you're a wellness provider, they might see, a corporate leader might see that people are a bit slow in making decisions, that people are absent quite a lot, that people don't come up with novel, creative solutions, that people are reluctant to make decisions. And of course, there can be many reasons of why these symptoms happen, but all of those symptoms are also symptoms of stressed out people. Because, of course, when you're stressed, it becomes more difficult to make decisions. When you're stressed and burnt out, you can't be creative. When you're stressed and burned out, you're going to be sick more often. So you can see that all of those aspects are things that a corporate leader might see in their people, might see happening in their teams, in their organization. And you can link that back to, well, these people are probably stressed out. And talking to the kind of symptoms, I call it peeling the onions, talking to the symptoms of things they might say, start appealing to their emotions, because they start putting themselves mentally into the day situation and going like, yeah, I can see my people are being incredibly reactive, and yes, there doesn't seem to be great morale going on at the moment. Okay, right. So stress and burnout could be a big factor. You understand how you link your work to the symptoms and how that starts appealing to the emotional side of the decision maker. So, in the first step, you have appealed to the logic. You have given them the reason why they should trust you. You have told them exactly how your work can help them and the kind of result they can get. You have spoken to their specific challenges, connected the dots for them, and now you're painting a more holistic picture that also appeals to their emotions. So those two aspects alone will double the fees you can charge, because the moment you link to those two aspects, you are seen as somebody who is not just interested in a transactional exchange of service for money, which is what most other people do, but somebody who truly understands them. And it immediately raised their perception of you as an authority. But there is one more magic ingredient that you must include. And I know nobody else talks about this, and yet I have used this in my own work pretty much from the get go, not the very early days when I charged pennies for my work, but the moment I stepped into my authority and my power. And this works like magic, because connect to them in all of your interactions, no matter what they look like, whether that's an email, whether it's a DM on LinkedIn, whether even that's a post on LinkedIn, or how you introduce yourself at a networking event, connect to them on a human level. Not just see them as a human, but connect to them on a human level. And the most powerful way that I have found to do that, and all my clients, I insist that everybody I work with will does the same in their pitches, in their proposals, in their interactions. The fastest way to do that is to share why you care about your work, why your work is not just important to your client, but why it is important to you as well. What is your mission behind your work? Why is it deeply important? And what is your unique perspective that is driven by that mission? This is so powerful. This is incredible work when you include it in your interactions, because straight up, corporate leaders will see you as not just somebody who does a job for a fee, for a paycheck, but as somebody who is driven. And let's face it, all real authority figures are driven by more than just the fees they can charge, right? They are driven by having a vision, having a mission, and a unique perspective. So make sure you actually lock that in and communicate it. That's right. Communicate it in every single place, in every interaction you have. It doesn't mean you have to give a big, long spiel about it, but be able to drop in why you care about this work, why it matters to you beyond any fees that they could pay you, any fees you could charge, or beyond any project, why you really, really care. And that will treble, quadruple, and more your conversion rate and the fees, because the moment you do that, you start to connect on a human level and you start to build relationships which are so much more than just client and service provider. Now, this gets them interested. And then to get paid, to translate that interest, that interest where they say, sure, let's have a conversation. Or, yes, I'd like to explore how you could maybe help us, to translate that into 3 times higher fees than the fees you might have been charging in the past or the fees that are seen as industry averages, to translate that interest into 3 times higher fees. There is one thing you must do, and that is to put your fees into context. What do I mean by putting that into context? What I mean is you have already explained, connected the dots of why your work is crucial, why it's an essential part, an essential ingredient that they need if they want to achieve their goals. You now need to quantify that. And that means you need to give them an indication of the ROI that they might be seeing. You want to show them how others have achieved amazing results when they did that kind of work. And I know your brain's going to go, oh, but I haven't worked with corporates yet, or I haven't worked much yet. I don't have case studies. That is fine. That is no problem, because what you can do in those cases when you are new to working with corporates or you haven't worked at the levels that you wanted to work with them, you can borrow authority. That's right, borrow authority, not steal, never steal, just borrow authority. Because what you can do is you can research statistics, you can research other case studies, and highlight how others using the same methodologies, the same approach that you're using, have achieved amazing results. So, for example, when I, in my early days, tried to explain the value of coaching to corporate leaders, I would tell them that actually very famous business people like Richard Branson have several coaches. In fact, one of my go-to phrases was, well, coaching isn't for people who are underperforming. It's actually for people who are performing at the highest level in the industry. Just take Richard Branson, for example. He has 5 to 7 coaches on the go at any time. One of them is his tennis coach, but that's a different matter. And this little phrase, this little extract that I would throw into a conversation did 2 things. First, it got a laugh because I made it funny with the tennis coach. But more importantly, it addressed a potential objection they might have, and it normalized that what I was talking about, coaching, was something that successful leaders were doing, that successful leaders were taking advantage of. So it showed that even though I had never worked with Richard Branson, I'm not his coach, but it showed that coaching is a good thing that winners, aka somebody famous, would actually use to achieve their goals. So that way I used to borrow authority. As I said, be very clear though that you're not saying these are your case studies. That just make sure that you are always completely transparent of whose case studies these are. But that's fine. You can absolutely borrow the authority in this way. It really means that when you're putting your fees into context, you are leaning into the opportunity for your prospects. You are not just saying, oh, well, if you work with me as a wellness advisor, then your people will be less stressed. You're leaning into like, well, if you work with me as a wellness advisor, I can help you achieve results that like in research studies, and you quote an appropriate study, have shown that productivity increases by 20% as stress levels drop by 5 counts. Obviously, these are not real figures. You have to go and find your own real figures. If you want help with that, you want to check the special offer around authority, my brand new program, because that's exactly the kind of work we will be doing there. But all of that research is out there, so you can do it. So you make sure that you really lean into what is the opportunity. What's the opportunity for benefits? What's the opportunity for savings? What's the opportunity for sales? What's the opportunity for quantifiable benefits for your clients? And you are very specific, because when you are really specific and lean into that context, those opportunities, then your fees become a no-brainer. Your fees become well, obviously they would want to hire you at those fees. I'll give you another example from our own world. When I talk to companies around helping their senior leadership team to become more efficient and drive better performance in the teams below them, I often share a case study, which happens to be mine in this case, of how I helped another organization save so significant amount of senior management times that it came to around 350,000 euros a year. So the moment I start quoting numbers like that, when I then say, well, and my short-term program of 3 months working with you is 45K, it becomes a no-brainer, because of course they will want to save this much, and paying the small amount in comparison, it's it's an absolute no discussion point. They are immediately fine with those kind of fees. So this is what you want to do. You want to be able to put your fees into that context. And that is exactly what helped me raise my fees from sub 1,000 for the day to over 5K for 2 hours online workshops. That is the exact steps that I made. I put the fees into context. Now, I know your mind might be going to, well, but I haven't got amazing figures like that to quote yet. That's fine. Remember what we just talked about in terms of borrowing authority. Do a little bit of research, find some relevant statistics, find some relevant case studies, make sure that they are specific to the challenges of the companies that you want to speak to, of your ideal clients that you want to speak to. Do that research and then just quantify it out. If you want help with any of that, as I say, check out Authority, or just DM me for a one-on-one intensive on any of these. The next part is really important, because this is another one of my secret sauce. This is the one thing that all the people in the Corporate Offer Academy, they were just blown away by how it shifted from having an offer that seemed valuable to having an offer that is just an incredible no-brainer value for corporates. And that is when you demonstrate how not just the overall offer that you're making delivers amazing value and is a no-brainer really, but when you then break that down, how each part of your offer delivers incredible value, corporates will not be able to say no to you. This is something that very, very few consultants and service providers do. Most of them provide a generic indication of what the benefits there would be to the client. Some go a little bit further and dive into tangible benefits and dive into maybe an ROI, which is absolutely what you must do. But if you then break down how every single step of the work that you can do with corporates delivers amazing value, you move from, oh, should we hire this person, to, OMG, which one of these options should we hire them for, or can we just have all of them? That is the magic element that really, really pushes your face up.